handsome appearance. The female doctor took the initiative to show him her chest. But to her surprise, he had absolutely no interest in it. The reason? Since childhood, he had suffered from a strange condition. In his eyes, all living beings appeared in the form of pigs. What seemed like a cruel joke from fate had completely disrupted his life, especially when it came to communication and choosing a life partner. Though he had visited countless doctors, none could identify the cause. All they could offer was a vague diagnosis that his visual nerves and brain had some kind of bizarre anomaly. However, everything changed on the day he participated in the job awakening ceremony at the academy. Among hundreds of students anxiously awaiting their results, Yi Chuan shocked everyone when he awakened a rare god-tier profession, only for it to be god-tier pig butcher. This marked the beginning of a hilarious yet heartbreaking journey. A young man with an overpowered ability, misunderstood as mentally ill, must learn how to wield his unique strength to face the world. And when the whole world looks like pigs, perhaps Yi Chuan is the chosen one, destined to butcher the truth behind it all. On a bright morning at a major hospital on Earth, in the neurology department, a young doctor stared at the patient in front of her and asked, as if to confirm, "If I heard you right, you said everyone you see looks like a pig?" Yi Chuan remained silent. He neither denied it nor offered an explanation. But his silence said enough to the doctor. Her face flushed slightly red. She leaned in closer, tilting her head and asked, "Are you messing with me? Are you saying I look like a pig to you too?" Yi Chuan calmly looked up at her, then nodded with the same composed expression to confirm it was true. That beautiful face, now in his eyes, was simply a glittering pink pig. The female doctor froze, flustered and slightly embarrassed as she muttered, "This is the first time I've heard of a case like this." Her eyes flickered, as if a new idea had come to her. She thought Yi Chuan was incredibly handsome, and it was such a shame that he had this bizarre condition. Taking a deep breath, she slowly unzipped her white coat, revealing her fair chest. She insisted it wasn't seduction, but a medical examination. After all, first they had to check whether his hardware was still functioning normally. She smiled and asked Yi Chuan what he was seeing. With confidence, she declared, "I'm this attractive. Even someone mentally unstable wouldn't possibly see me as a pig." But in Yi Chuan's eyes, those two alluring hills on her chest were two pig heads. Strangely enough, they were even smiling at him. Aside from his wide eyes showing a bit of shock, Yi Chuan remained composed and confirmed once again, he was indeed seeing two pig heads. In his mind, a desperate question echoed. How the hell am I supposed to feel aroused by two pig heads? The female doctor gasped and quickly covered her chest. Not only that, she stepped back several times before yelling, "You psycho!" After a moment, the awkward atmosphere began to dissipate. The female doctor pointed at a spinal model on her desk and began analyzing. "Your spine, it really does have serious issues. Look here, this part is totally different from a normal person's. There are even some deformations pressing on your nerves, seriously affecting your visual cortex and brain function. That's probably the reason you're seeing everyone as pigs." Yi Chuan nodded. Clearly, he wasn't waiting for these empty diagnoses anymore. What he wanted was a cure. But in response to his silent hope, all he got was a sigh. The doctor admitted helplessly, "The only solution is to adjust your spine and brain. But the success rate is extremely low. If it fails, you could be paralyzed from the neck down, for life." Hearing that, Yi Chuan gave a slight nod, as if he were listening to someone talk about the weather. Then he said, "Doctor, are you done talking? Can I have my spine back now?" The female doctor paused for a moment, her eyes filled with confusion. She hadn't expected him to think that the model spine on the table was actually his. Looking at his dazed but serious expression, she couldn't help but feel a sense of pity. What a shame, such a handsome young man, and yet completely insane. The scene shifted to a bustling city street. On a crowded bus, Yi Chuan was feeling sleepy, holding a thick folder tightly in his arms. Although the bus was packed, no one dared sit next to him, probably because of the large words on the outside of his folder, "Severe mental disorder." His name was Yi Chuan. Since childhood, he had seen everyone around him as walking pigs. Maybe it had something to do with the fact that his parents were butchers. Honestly, it didn't really affect his daily life, except for one thing: choosing a life partner. Today was an important day, the day of profession awakening. Ordinary people could awaken as warriors, mages, healers, or archers, but he was nervous. With this bizarre condition, what could he possibly become? Yi Chuan hoped that after the ceremony, this strange affliction would simply disappear. The scene cut to Qingcheng Academy, where the profession awakening ceremony was being held for thousands of youths. Yi Chuan blended into the crowd as he stepped through the academy gates. He sighed as he walked, worried that his condition might affect the awakening process. If that happened, he didn't know what his future would hold. Just then, a cheerful voice called out, breaking through his thoughts, "Yi Chuan, you're finally here. If you were any later, I swear I'd kill you." Before he could react, a beautiful girl came up beside him and playfully slapped his arm. But in his eyes, her delicate hand was just a fat pig's trotter tapping on him. Yi Chuan flinched and turned to look, and as usual, there was no stunning beauty in sight, only a chubby, ugly pig person grinning at him. Seeing his expression, the girl became both angry and embarrassed. She pouted and said, "Why do you always look at me like that?" Yi Chuan stayed silent. He didn't know how to respond. He had no idea what she really looked like. All he knew was that he felt suffocated being hugged by such an ugly pig. Another girl nearby teased, "Shu Lingxuan, clinging to your Yi Chuan again? You two feeding us dog food every day is exhausting." Someone else chimed in, "They are childhood sweethearts. Who knows, maybe after today they will get married and have a bunch of kids." The teasing made Lin Huyan blush bright red. She told them to stop talking nonsense. She pulled Yi Chuan to move forward quickly. Yi Chuan's whole body was covered in sweat, and all he could see was a red-faced pig happily chatting beside him. Inside, a strange and indescribable feeling welled up. The scene shifted again, now to inside Qingcheng Academy. Rows of students stood in line according to their ID numbers, all tense as they waited for their turn. The voice of the instructor rang out, steady and commanding. "The awakening ceremony is about to begin. Now is the time to show the results of all your years of hard work. Strength, agility, and spiritual power. These three core attributes will determine what profession you awaken. The higher your stats, the greater your chance of awakening a powerful class." The headmaster urged the students to focus all their mental energy and give it their all. The profession they awakened today would shape their entire future. If they could awaken a high-tier combat class, it would be like defying fate itself, becoming a legend, a symbol of glory, admired by all. And of course, such a feat would bring endless honor to the academy. The air in the hall felt thick and heavy. Each student carried a mix of hope and anxiety as they slowly stepped toward the awakening stone placed at the center of the hall. After the signal was given, the first person stepped forward and placed their hand on the stone. The stone glowed, then displayed a rather disappointing result. Support class, intermediate welder. The student stood there, mouth agape, completely stunned. No one had expected such an outcome. Even the headmaster beside him shook his head and sighed. Then the second student stepped forward, support class, advanced mason. The third, support class, low-tier engineer. The crowd began to murmur. None of the first three had awakened a combat profession. The atmosphere grew tense. The fourth student walked forward, trembling slightly, each step heavier than the last. Despite hesitating, he placed his hand on the stone, but this time, it was completely different. The stone suddenly flashed with intense light. A faint golden glow spread outward. After a few seconds of silence, the result appeared. Combat type, shadowless blade dancer, rare class. The entire hall went quiet for one stunned moment, then exploded with cheers. "Oh my god, a rare tier class. This is the first time I've seen someone awaken as a shadowless blade dancer. He's really lucky." The headmaster immediately stepped forward, smiling brightly. "Student, what is your name?" The boy who had just awakened the rare profession answered respectfully, with a newfound confidence completely unlike his nervous demeanor earlier. "Headmaster, my name is Lu Gun Long." The headmaster beamed, ignoring the boy's proud tone, and praised him. "That's a great name. Go home and get some rest. Later, I'll personally visit your family to discuss your life plans." Lu Gun Long walked away from the altar glowing with pride. In that moment, he knew his destiny had turned a brand new page. The crowd continued to cheer. "Brother Long. Brother Long is amazing." The ceremony carried on with high spirits. Then, the headmaster glanced at the list and called out loudly, "Next, Yi Chuan." All eyes turned toward Yi Chuan. Beneath the sunlight, he walked slowly and steadily toward the stone. Down below, Shu Lingxuan blushed and looked up at him with hopeful eyes, cheering quietly. "Brother Yi Chuan, you can do it," as if pouring all her courage and hope into that whisper. Principal True Min, standing beside the ceremonial altar, watched Yi Chuan's back with a worried expression. He knew a bit about the boy. In his view, Yi Chuan was mentally odd, but his stats told a different story. While most people's combined strength, agility, and spirit totaled around 3 points, Yi Chuan had 10 points, more than triple the average. The headmaster secretly prayed for a miracle. Yi Chuan stepped forward and calmly placed his hand on the awakening stone. Suddenly, a brilliant light exploded, followed by a raging whirlwind that blew everyone's hair and clothes backward. The crowd instinctively stepped back. The headmaster's eyes widened in shock and he shouted, "That color, purple gold. This is..." Just then, text appeared on the stone. Divine class profession, God tier pig butcher. Yi Chuan was stunned. He stared wide-eyed at the words pig butcher. The headmaster, snapping out of his excitement, was frozen in place. Why such cruel irony? The full title on the stone read, Support Class, God tier pig butcher. For a moment, the hall was completely silent. Then, an eruption of laughter. What, God tier pig butcher? There must be a mistake. A divine class job, and it's butchering pigs? This is ridiculous. What kind of divine tier profession is that supposed to be? What a stupid job. Can't even tell if this guy's lucky or just plain cursed. The headmaster's face darkened, filled with utter regret. You've got to be kidding me. Heaven, are you playing a joke on me? In all my years as a headmaster, after all the hardship, I finally witnessed someone awaken a divine tier profession, and it turns out to be a pig butcher, the most useless job there is. Even if he had awakened a blacksmith, a potion master, or a healer, I could have held my head high. But this? The greater the hope, the deeper the disappointment. With a heavy sigh, the headmaster told Yi Chuan to step down from the platform. At that very moment, a flicker of light appeared in Yi Chuan's eyes. In front of him, a system interface appeared, displaying detailed information. Profession system activated. Name, Yi Chuan. Rank, Apprentice Level 1. Attributes, Strength 5, Agility 3, Spirit 2. Small Diamond Profession Talents. Nemesis of the Pigkin, deals 50% more damage to Pigkin-type enemies. Gain plus 1% talent growth with every Pigkin killed. Takes 50% less damage from Pigkin attacks. Butcher God's Blade. Choose a weapon to designate as your pig butcher's knife. Each Pigkin killed using this weapon grants plus 0.1 free attribute points. Small Diamond Profession Skills. Bloodshadow Butchery LV.1, emits killing intent, causing pig to fall into a fear state for 1 second. Yi Chuan froze for a few seconds. Then he began to tremble slightly. He read every line carefully. And when he reached the line, deals 50% more damage to pig. He couldn't help but smile. For the first time in his life, his bizarre condition actually seemed like a blessing. He looked up at the crowd around him. As always, in his eyes, they were all pigs. Pigs everywhere. The moment Yi Chuan stepped down, all kinds of complicated expressions, shock, disdain, mockery, regret, were cast upon him, along with a flurry of whispers. He had awakened a god-tier profession, yet it turned out to be a pig butcher. The blow felt like a fall from heaven straight into hell. Had Yi Chuan awakened a god-tier combat profession, top-tier schools would have scrambled to recruit him, throwing all their resources into nurturing his potential. Jinglong shook his head with a mocking tone, his eyes openly gleeful. Ha ha, I really thought our Qingcheng High School had finally produced a dragon, but it turned out to be just a pig butcher. Exactly, all that commotion for what? Just a butcher's profession. That's hilarious. Hearing Jinglong speak up, the surrounding students eagerly chimed in to flatter him. A trash job like that. What's the point of it being god tier? It's not even as useful as a high-level alchemist. Brother Jinglong, Qingcheng High only has one true dragon, and that's you. It's okay, Yi Chuan. Awakening the god-tier butcher class just means you're carrying on your father's legacy. Uncle Yi will definitely be proud. My dad will be happy too. Amid all the ridicule, only Shu Lingxuan stepped forward. She stood on tiptoes and gently patted Yi Chuan's head. Yi Chuan nodded calmly. Thank you. Yi Chuan and Shu Lingxuan were neighbors. Their parents were both blue-collar workers. And ever since they were little, the families had talked about marrying them off to each other. Unfortunately, in Yi Chuan's eyes, Shu Lingxuan had always been like a chubby pink pig. Falling in love with a pig. That was just too difficult. Still, watching the scene between them, The surrounding students immediately turned green with envy. They thought Yi Chuan was incredibly lucky to have such a pretty girlfriend. Just then, the principal called the name of the next person to be tested. Coincidentally, it was Xu Lingxuan. She stuck her tongue out playfully and skipped toward the profession awakening altar. It's my turn now. Yi Chuan. I wonder if I'll inherit mom's tailoring profession or dad's liquor making skills. But no matter what job I awaken, I'll always stay by your side. Hearing those words, Yi Chuan widened his eyes in shock. He could truly feel the depth of Xu Lingxuan's feelings for him. He waited eagerly to see what profession she would awaken. Earlier, Yi Chuan's awakening of the God-tier butcher class had already drawn all attention toward him. The crowd was buzzing. No one paid any mind to the next candidate. But at the exact moment Xu Lingxuan placed her hand on the awakening stone, something strange happened. A thick pillar of black light suddenly burst forth from the stone, shooting straight into the sky. Its glow reflected across the faces of everyone nearby, turning their expressions pitch black as ink. In an instant, the schoolyard that had been buzzing with noise just moments ago suddenly fell into a deathly silence. Every face froze in shock, mouths agape, staring blankly at the massive column of black light. It wasn't until a terrified scream broke the silence that the crowd snapped out of their stupor. Legendary class. Someone has awakened a legendary class. Lightly to the slender figure beneath the strange black light. Xu Lingxuan, already stunningly beautiful, now stood amidst the pitch-black column like a goddess stepping out of an ancient painting. A mysterious aura cloaked her figure. On the stone platform, glowing words appeared. Combat class. Legendary rank. Frost Soul Sword Immortal. Principal Zhao Ming's gaze locked intensely on the black pillar blazing in the air. A legendary combat class? How could this happen? Weren't both of her parents just lifestyle class holders? This is a mutation. Zhao Ming's face flushed with excitement. He quickly made his way to Xu Lingxuan, beaming brightly. Xu Lingxuan, don't worry, whatever you need, just say the word. Qingcheng High School will give you our full support in your development. But Xu Lingxuan didn't look happy. She gave a faint thank you to the teacher, then slowly stepped down from the altar. The crowd around began whispering in hushed tones. One's a god-tier butcher. The other's a legendary sword immortal. Do you guys think Xu Lingxuan will still cling to Yi Chuan like before? Do you even need to ask? Lingxuan is a genius, and Yi Chuan's a good-for-nothing. If he knows what's best, he should just quietly step aside. Everyone knows it, starting now. Their paths have completely diverged. Two lines that will never cross again. Congratulations, Yi Chuan said, clapping. His expression was gentle, his smile sincere. I truly wish you the best. But in Xu Lingxuan's eyes, a complex emotion flickered, vague, conflicted, even sorrowful. Then her tone shifted. Yi Chuan, I admit there were some misunderstandings between us before. But now, none of that matters anymore. We no longer belong to the same world. Yi Chuan's eyes widened in disbelief. He hadn't expected the girl to change so drastically. Everyone turned their heads to look at Yi Chuan, their faces filled with mocking smiles. Having just awakened a legendary profession, the girl immediately announced that they were cutting ties. Fine, Yi Chuan replied calmly, as if nothing had happened. But to others, especially to Xu Lingxuan, his calmness looked like a mask for hurt pride. I know this must be a shock to you. Don't try to act strong. Do you really think a butcher has any future? Please don't blame me. Her voice grew choked. Her gaze at Yi Chuan was tinged with pity. If you have no objections, then let's consider this settled. I hope you won't bother me anymore. Yi Chuan frowned slightly. A pig yapping in front of me, thinking it's somehow noble, then telling me not to disturb it? How ridiculous. To Yi Chuan, severing ties with a pig wasn't anything worth grieving. On the contrary, he felt relieved to be free of her. If there's nothing else, I'll be going now. This reaction completely caught Xu Lingxuan off guard. Jinglong stepped forward, eyes burning as he looked at Xu Lingxuan. Lingxuan, want me to teach that guy a lesson? Let him know his place. But seeing that Xu Lingxuan didn't even bother to respond, Jinglong felt humiliated. He turned and took his frustration out on Yi Chuan. Hey, you damn butcher, get over here. At that moment, Yi Chuan was deep in thought, wondering where he could find a pig to slaughter and level up. He didn't even register the shout. Being openly ignored, Jinglong's expression darkened with fury. A mere butcher dared to look down on someone with a rare combat class like him? Already annoyed from earlier when Yi Chuan had stolen the spotlight, Jinglong finally snapped. I'm talking to you. Are you deaf? He charged forward and grabbed Yi Chuan by the arm. Yi Chuan glanced at him indifferently, saying nothing. His calm eyes swept across Jinglong's fleshy face without emotion. It was that look, the kind of look that made Jinglong feel like he was being stared down by a natural predator. A chill shot through his body. Instinctively, he staggered back several steps, then tripped and fell hard on the ground. Jinglong's face froze, filled with disbelief. What just happened? That one glance made him feel like he was a hog tied to a chopping block, waiting to be butchered. The crowd, seeing Jinglong's fear, immediately burst into mocking laughter. Someone rushed over to help him up, asking with concern, "Are you okay? What happened?" Humiliated and surrounded by jeers, Jinglong's face turned beet red, his body trembling with rage. "You worthless trash dare glare at me? You're just a damn butcher. Who the hell do you think you are?" Blinded by fury, he couldn't hold back anymore. Jinglong swung his fist directly at Yi Chuan's face. As a rare class blade warrior, even without a weapon, Jinglong's punch carried the sharpness of a blade and boosted physical power. This was the terrifying strength of a combat profession. But Yi Chuan didn't dodge. Instead, he threw a punch of his own. His base stats were already incredibly high, and on top of that, the natural enemy of the pig race skill gave him a massive boost in power while debuffing his opponent, cutting their strength in half. Their fists collided, crack. A crisp, bone-snapping sound rang out. Jinglong's face instantly froze. He let out a scream and stumbled back, clutching his hand, which had now twisted into a grotesque shape. The crowd was stunned. Shocked silence followed. They had never imagined something like this could happen. "No way. You're just a butcher," Jinglong stammered, his face filled with terror. In this world, no matter how strong a lifestyle class became, they were still ants compared to combat classes. And yet Yi Chuan, a butcher, had just broken his hand? Yi Chuan responded calmly, "I'm a butcher. It's only natural that I've got a bit of strength in my arms." Then his eyes narrowed slightly. "But you couldn't even beat someone like me. So what does that make you?" The crowd of students around was completely shocked by what they had just witnessed. They couldn't help but ask themselves what had just happened when they saw Jinglong's arm twisted and mangled after clashing with Yi Chuan. Jinglong was nearly driven mad. He was furious and terrified. He never expected to have his arm broken by a butcher. "Yi Chuan, I'll take your life for this." Immediately afterward, a chilling blade aura burst forth. A sharp saber, condensed from spiritual energy like the scythe of death itself, materialized in Jinglong's hand. This was the signature skill of the Shadow Blade Warrior class, weapon manifestation through energy. The crowd instantly backed away in alarm. They believed Yi Chuan was now in danger since Jinglong had begun fighting seriously. Yi Chuan's dead this time. Why would he argue with a warrior? He should have just bowed his head and apologized. That's a rare combat class. Way too powerful. If he had surrendered from the beginning, none of this would have happened. Jinglong pointed his weapon at Yi Chuan with full confidence. He boasted that his saber was sharp enough to slice through steel like cutting noodles. If Yi Chuan got down on his knees and apologized, he might consider letting the matter go. Otherwise, he swore he would destroy Yi Chuan right here and now. Gripping the illusionary saber tightly, he prepared to charge, ready to risk everything. His pride wouldn't allow him to endure such humiliation in front of so many people. But before he could make a move, white snow suddenly began to fall from the sky. The snowflakes, as if imbued with life, clung tightly to Jinglong, freezing him in place. At the same time, he felt an overwhelming sword intent lock onto him like a deadly predator. Straining to turn his head, Jinglong shouted angrily, "Lingxuan, why are you helping him?" Facing a legendary tier combat class like Lingxuan, he knew full well that he didn't stand a chance. Lingxuan replied coldly, "Let him go." Snowflakes drifted endlessly around her, making the air so cold it felt like it might freeze solid. The chilling atmosphere made her appear utterly terrifying. She told them both to stop. She didn't want them fighting over her, speaking as if she were someone important, someone worth being fought over. She slowly walked toward Yi Chuan and, with a proud expression, continued, "Yi Chuan, as you can see, we no longer belong in the same world. This is the last time I'll help you. Think of it as a farewell to the past." Her words left Yi Chuan utterly bored. He wondered to himself why this ugly pig was so confident. Before leaving, Lingxuan advised Yi Chuan to leave the academy as soon as possible. "If Jinglong comes back for revenge, I won't be helping you next time." Yi Chuan yawned and turned to leave. If you're done, I'll be heading off now. To those watching, his departing back seemed filled with loneliness. Some even realized that Yi Chuan didn't seem to care at all about being dumped by Ling Xuan. But there were also others who thought he was just pretending to be strong, hiding his insecurity because the gap between them had grown too large. On his way home, Yi Chuan walked alone down the street in silence, lost in thought about the system he had just obtained, and how to level up as quickly as possible. As he turned a corner, a sudden barking rang out. A gray, shaggy dog, off its leash, bared its teeth and blocked his path. Behind the dog, its owner showed no intent of stopping it. On the contrary, the woman actually smiled. The loud barking made Yi Chuan's ears ache. In his eyes, there was a four-legged pig and a two-legged pig in front of him, and both were staring at him with the same nasty, unfriendly look. Trying to stay calm, Yi Chuan spoke politely. "Ma'am, could you please pull your dog back? It's blocking my way." The woman screamed in his face. "Is this your private road or something? Do young people today have no love for animals at all? You're so big and strong. Why are you picking on a little dog? What does a dog even understand? It's not like it bit you. Do you even have any manners?" Yi Chuan sighed. He was far too exhausted to argue with this woman, and right now, he had something else he needed to test. He walked straight toward the four-legged pig, and launched a flurry of kicks at the dog, sending it directly to the afterlife. The sudden attack left the woman frozen in fear, only able to scream incomprehensible sounds. Trembling, she stumbled toward the dog's lifeless body and cried out, "Son, don't scare mommy like that." At the very moment the dog died, Yi Chuan received a system notification. Butcher Yi Chuan has killed a piglet. EXP plus 0.1%. Bonus damage against Pig Clan increased by +1. Just as he expected, Yi Chuan couldn't help but feel a surge of excitement. His mental disorder had now become the very foundation of his power. Because to him, everything looked like a pig. His skill Pig Slayer's nemesis was effective against all living creatures. Even dogs weren't exempt. Just then, the woman snapped out of her shock. Enraged, she charged at Yi Chuan, screaming, "You bastard! How dare you kill my son? Are you bullying the elderly now? I'll fight you to the death." Yi Chuan remained calm. He pulled a medical file out of his pocket and stated, "I'm mentally ill." The woman froze on the spot. When she saw Yi Chuan's official medical record, her vision went dark. Seeing her reaction, Yi Chuan knew his problem had been solved. He asked her, "Do you still have anything to say? If not, I'll be on my way." The woman stood motionless, like she had turned to stone. She never expected to run into a lunatic. Forget about him killing her dog. If he suddenly lost it and chopped her up too, she'd die for nothing. Her attitude changed instantly. A cheerful smile appeared on her face, and she assured him everything was fine. She even reminded Yi Chuan to take care of his health. Yi Chuan tucked the medical file away and continued on his way home. After arriving, he told his parents about the legendary class butcher profession he had just obtained. However, Wu Jingzhu and Yi Qiyuan didn't seem surprised at all, nor did they feel disappointed in his profession. They accepted the news with quite pleased smiles. Yi Qiyuan thought it was great that Yi Chuan could take over the family trade. He said it was much better than fighting monsters all day. He even decided to bring Yi Chuan to the slaughterhouse tomorrow to get familiar with the work. He firmly believed that Yi Chuan would become the most feared butcher in all of humanity, someone whose name would make pigs around the world tremble in terror. After chatting with his parents, Yi Chuan decided to go to bed early that night to prepare for his visit to the slaughterhouse tomorrow. "Every time I kill a pig, my damage increases by 1%. But outside Yi Qiyuan's bedroom window, a figure dressed in black appeared. Yi Qiyuan noticed the presence immediately. With a serious tone, he said, "You've seen it for yourself. My son is just an ordinary butcher. Stop interfering in our lives." The man in black sounded irritated. "A legendary class butcher. And you call that ordinary? Unbelievable, Yi Qiyuan. Your son turned out to be a butcher. Are you sure he's really your biological child? Should we do a DNA test?" Mocked like that, a chilling killing aura suddenly burst from Yi Qiyuan's body, dense and overwhelming. "I told you, stop bothering us. If you keep pushing me, don't blame me for being rude." The man let out a strange, eerie laugh. "Relax, I'm just joking. If your son truly is nothing more than a butcher, then the organization won't trouble you anymore." With that, he vanished into the darkness. The next morning, Yi Chuan went with his father to the slaughterhouse where he had worked for many years. As soon as they stepped inside, a thick stench of blood mixed with pig feces filled the air, hanging heavy throughout the entire facility. Yi Chiyuan clearly enjoyed the surprised looks from the other workers as he led Yi Chuan to his own work area. There, he had a set of specialized butcher knives used exclusively for slaughtering pigs. He firmly believed that a great butcher must have an excellent blade. He offered Yi Chuan the chance to pick any knife he liked from the set. Yi Chuan walked over to the rack and picked out a thick, heavy knife. The moment it was in his hand, he felt its incredible weight, so much so that even the blunt side could likely crush a human skull. Just then, the system suddenly sent out a notification. Specialized butcher knife selected. Effect: God-slaying blade, activated. Every pig killed with this blade will grant you 0.1 free attribute points. At that moment, Yi Qiuan's gaze shifted to a pig hanging upside down on the conveyor. It was struggling and letting out angry squeals. Yi Qiuan explained that the first thing a butcher must learn is how to properly use the knife. He instructed Yi Chuan to try killing the pig based on his instincts, to aim for its weak point and take it down in a single strike. Yi Chuan slowly walked toward the pig, his heart filled with anxiety. After selecting his knife and activating the divine butcher blade, Yi Chuan, eyes cold and emotionless, slowly walked toward the pig hanging on the rack. Thanks to his overwhelming strength, he swung the blade down with force. The pig let out a blood-curdling screech that echoed throughout the slaughterhouse. Fresh blood sprayed out like a fountain, splattering across the ground. 3 seconds later, the poor pig finally stopped breathing. The system immediately displayed a notification. Pig-slaying god Yi Chuan has successfully butchered a fat pig. Gained 1% experience. Damage against the pig tribe increased by 1%. Plus 0.1 free attribute point. Yi Chiyuan burst into laughter. Well done, he said. He acknowledged Yi Chuan's strength but noted with slight disappointment that the strike lacked precision. It failed to instantly kill the pig. He reminded Yi Chuan to target the main artery. If the blade was fast and ruthless enough, the pig wouldn't even have time to make a sound. Yi Chuan nodded to show he understood, though his face remained mostly expressionless. Seeing that his son didn't seem excited about slaughtering pigs, Yi Chiyuan encouraged him. I know butchering pigs over and over like this can feel boring, but this is the trade we depend on to make a living. Before he could say anything more, Yi Chuan interrupted him with a gesture, pointing toward the herd of pigs and asking for permission to slaughter the rest. Seeing his son take initiative, Yi Chiyuan grinned with pride. That's my boy. If you want, you can even butcher Uncle Li's and Uncle Tran's pigs too. And so began Deep Suyen's journey as a slaughterhouse butcher. He repeated the process over and over until he became skilled. At first, he had to use abilities and multiple strikes to finish the job. But as he grew more proficient, Yi Chuan could cleanly slaughter a pig in just 3 swings. Sometimes, with his dominant hand, it only took one, sending the pig off without so much as a squeal. Just like his father. As time went on, Yi Chuan's butchering skills noticeably improved. He no longer needed to rely on any abilities. The number of strikes required continued to decrease. And of course, each time he killed a pig, the system would notify him. Pig-slaying god Yi Chuan has successfully butchered a fat pig. Gained 1% experience. Damage against the pig tribe increased by 1%. Plus 0.1 free attribute point. By the end of the day, he had slaughtered a total of 49 pigs. His damage bonus against the pig tribe had reached 100%, and his 3 core attribute stats had increased from 10 to 14.9. If his arms hadn't been so sore that he could no longer lift them, he would have gladly continued slaughtering a few more. The co-workers around Yi Chiyuan were amazed. They were shocked at how fast his son learned. Some even questioned whether Yi Chuan was truly his biological son. After all, he had completed in one day what took them a full week. Proud of the praise his son was receiving, Yi Chiyuan beamed with joy. Don't be so surprised, he told them. My son is a god-tier butcher. Fortunately, Yi Chuan's profession was limited to pig slaughtering. Otherwise, Yi Chiyuan truly believed that this son of his could become a butcher so terrifying that the entire world would tremble before him. At that moment, Yi Chuan was still staring intently at the butcher knife in his hand. A strange feeling stirred within him, he didn't know why. But killing pigs felt incredibly relaxing and satisfying. as if he could keep doing it forever without getting bored. Right then and there, Yi Chuan gained absolute confidence. Even if someone had a combat profession, they might not be a match for me. Maybe it was time to leave the slaughterhouse for a little trip. The next day, Yi Chuan packed his backpack and left home. Inside were his familiar butcher knife, some food, water, and liquor. Slaughtering pigs inside the facility was certainly safe, but the efficiency was just too low. This world was home to countless races and infested with monsters. Humanity no longer divided itself by national borders. Instead, it united under the Human Federation, which was split into 9 special zones. Qingcheng, the city Yi Chuan lived in, was located on the edge of Special Zone 5. As long as one left the influence range of human territory, they'd have to face a variety of dangerous races, many of which saw humans as food. However, for those with combat professions, the outside world was the best place to train and grow stronger. Stay indoors forever, and you could never become a top-tier powerhouse. Before leaving the city, Yi Chuan went through a simple registration procedure at the gate. The guard reminded him, as a life-skill type professional, you're only permitted to operate within a 1-kilometer radius of the city. Going beyond that is extremely dangerous. Understood. Yi Chuan nodded obediently, then turned and walked out. His calm demeanor caught the guards slightly off guard. The world outside was nothing like the one inside the city. Out here, it was wild and desolate. Thick grass grew unchecked. The deeper Yi Chuan ventured, the quieter everything became, until only the sound of wind whistling past his ears remained. Entering a dense patch of low shrubs, Yi Chuan grew alert. He had a vague feeling that something, or someone, was watching him. He pulled his backpack to the front and placed a hand on his trusty butcher knife. Rustle. A black shadow leapt out from the bushes. It was a humanoid creature about 1 meter tall, green all over, holding a small knife and screaming as it lunged at Yi Chuan. Yi Chuan stared at the green-skinned creature and quickly identified its race, a goblin. Without hesitation, Yi Chuan activated the skill Blood Shadow of the Butcher. A burst of killing intent erupted, causing the goblin to freeze in fear for 1 full second. Yi Chuan seized the moment, rushed forward, and swung his blade down. The goblin didn't even have time to react before it was cleanly sliced in 2. Thanks to his 100% bonus damage from Pig Tribe Nemesis, taking down the goblin was incredibly easy. A system notification popped up. Butcher Yi Chuan has slain a special pig using a butcher knife. Gained 5% experience. Pig Tribe Nemesis bonus increased by 1%. Plus 0.1 free attribute point. Yi Chuan realized, the stronger the pig-like creatures he killed, the better the rewards. Killing a regular pig only gave him 1% experience. But this goblin gave 5%. The time it took to kill goblins and pigs was nearly the same. But the payoff for goblins was clearly better. He remembered his teacher's warning: goblins are cunning, aggressive, and highly united. If one appears in front of you, it's a distraction. The real ones will ambush you from behind. In other words, if one goblin is here, there's definitely a whole group nearby. Just as Yi Chuan predicted, a group of goblins slowly emerged from hiding. Their eyes burned with fury as they stared at him. But Yi Chuan only saw giant sacks of express. He shouted with a grin, "Come on then, you ugly little pigs." The goblins charged at him in unison. Yi Chuan didn't flinch. Instead, he grabbed his butcher knife, rushed into the group, and began his slaughter. In this world, goblins sat firmly at the bottom of the food chain. If not for their insane reproduction rate, their species would have gone extinct long ago. Yi Chuan swung his knife once more. The nearest goblin didn't even have time to scream before collapsing lifelessly. Not even a twitch. The system continued to chime as Yi Chuan took down each goblin. Butcher Yi Chuan has slain a special pig using a butcher knife. Gained 5% experience. Pig Tribe Nemesis bonus increased by 1%. Plus 0.1 free attribute point. Yi Chuan cleanly severed each target's lifeline. To him, these fierce goblins were no different than fat pigs in a slaughterhouse. As long as you hit the weak spot, killing a goblin or a pig made no difference at all. Finally, when only one goblin remained, Yi Chuan stopped. The surviving goblin trembled in terror, watching its comrades fall one after another. Its body shook uncontrollably, and when it caught sight of Yi Chuan's cold, emotionless stare, it turned and ran. But Yi Chuan didn't rush after it. Instead, he quietly tailed it from a distance. Knowing that goblins lived in tribal clusters. Follow one, and you'd find the whole nest. Sure enough, the goblin darted into a dark mountain cave and scurried inside. Yi Chuan didn't hesitate. He stepped into the cave, the corners of his mouth curling into a chilling, deranged smile. The smile of a true maniac. Moments later, agonized screams of goblins echoed from deep within the cave. The heavy stench of blood quickly filled the air. With the pig tribe nemesis buff now granting plus 100% damage, and armed with slaughter techniques passed down from his father, Yi Chuan's blade moved with unbelievable speed. 1 hour later, not a single goblin in the cave was left standing. All that remained were bodies, scattered across the blood-soaked ground. Most of the corpses were intact, save for one thing, a deep, clean cut across the throat. A single, fatal strike. Exiting combat mode, Yi Chuan began reviewing his results. In just 1 hour, he had killed 73 goblins. It had been risky, but the power gain out here in the wild was miles beyond what he could achieve in the slaughterhouse. 1 hour of fighting had equaled a whole day of pig killing. Yi Chuan's current stats were: Strength, 251. Agility, 25. Spirit, 25. Pig Tribe Nemesis bonus, plus 120%. Without stopping, Yi Chuan continued deeper into the cave. The farther in he went, the stronger the stench of blood and rot, thick and vile, enough to make someone gag. Deep within, he stumbled upon what appeared to be the goblin breeding ground, blocked off by a wooden door. Yi Chuan raised his foot and kicked it down. Inside, there was a woman, covered in dirt, her clothes still intact, and several small goblin children. Despite being filthy, the woman showed no signs of abuse or torture. Her eyes widened with hope the moment she saw Yi Chuan. Though her mouth was tightly gagged, she struggled to let out faint, muffled sounds, pleading for him to save her.
Thanks for watching. I'm going to introduce the new manhwa in different voices.